Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Teammates Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Lensander. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of talking to college football writer JD Yonke. I had the pleasure of going to high school with JD, and he is an incredible story. He was a high school baseball star pitcher with an ERA under 1 and ended up playing college lacrosse. We touch on all the important parts of following his dream after transitioning into the real world. We also dive into the unique importance of college football and its many nuances. Thank you for listening. Sit back and enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Teammates Podcast. We are back for episode 4, brought to you by Lenk Media. So our guest today is a friend of mine for a long time. We went to high school together. And he's had an interesting journey through the sports world and now kind of into the sports writing world and into the great world of college football. So JD Yonke, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing good, man. It's sweltering heat over here and we just lost power, as you know. So an interesting day. But yeah, having a good time, man. What's up?
Yeah, so we were supposed to record this a little bit ago, but he lost power about 15 minutes before, which is not exactly the greatest timing. But we're here, we're alive, we're thriving. So we'll just hop right into it. Thank you for listening, everyone. And so JD, tell us a little bit about your background, maybe growing up into sports. I know you played a lot of different sports, got big into football, going to high school, but tell us kind of how the start of your, sports journey started.
Yeah, I mean, it's been as long as I can remember, which I'm assuming is, a common theme here. But yeah. It's been as long as I can remember. So yeah, I grew up in Santa Barbara, same town as Nick. It's as long as I can remember. I mean, T-ball. You can still remember T-ball games. I remember there's always a funny story where I don't know if this happens often or not, but like in T-ball, I couldn't trust a kid. If I throw it, they can't catch it, because, kids, if you ever watch a T-ball game, you know what I'm talking about. So mother loves to tell stories about, I would refuse to throw it. So I'd get the ball in the infield and just run it over to the base because it's more efficient.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah. So it's been as long as I can remember, pretty much every sport. And Santa Barbara has a pretty good sports team, honestly, or sports program. The youth programs they have there is pretty good. I know we were talking the other day, like Gabe Spire, a random Santa Barbara guy. He was in Little League. He's like 2 years younger than us. And he's pitching for the Royals. I'm like, what the hell is that Gabe Spire? Like Little League Gabe Spire? I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy. So pretty good program. So yeah, it was a good place to grow up. I mean, it's hard to beat Santa Barbara, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so baseball, you were big into baseball growing up. You were a very good pitcher, and I mean, you pretty much played every position. But yeah, so I mean, we have some great programs here. Gabe Spire, I think he was originally drafted by the Red Sox in kind of like a later round, and he's developed very well, obviously. I didn't know him personally, but I know you and a lot of the guys that went to our high school, played together in Little League. So baseball was kind of like your first love, I guess. Or was it football, or what do you think there?
It's hard to put a cap on it. It's either that, basketball, and you grew up playing AYSO, soccer, but I don't think soccer's really ever been a love, right? So it's hard to say. I mean, T-ball's not even really baseball, you know what I'm saying? But it's that and basketball would I have my earliest memories of, for sure, because we had boys club is where I grew up playing, and there was also the Page Center was pretty dang good. But there's a bunch of programs that are really good there. Yeah, there definitely is. So
moving along to high school, so we both went to high school together. He played football early on. He played varsity as you're a freshman, right? And you're playing varsity. We were playing like Oaks Christian that year, I think. I know you had some injury problems and you didn't end up playing every year. Walk us through your high school journey a little bit, starting with football freshman year.
Yeah, for sure. So that's it's a long story. We'll see how I get into it. So basically, like you said, I grew up playing every sport, and I was, I think it's funny because I think I was one of the older ones in our graduating class. We're in the same class in high school, right?
Yep, you were.
I think I was one of the older ones, and I'm pretty positive you were one of the younger ones, if not the
Absolutely.
youngest.
Yeah, we're a little bit apart in age.
So we have a totally opposite experience. So I always grew up, and I was like physically dominant as a tiny kid, right? Like going back to youth sports, we played on a team. A friend we know, Thomas Rennick, was on that team. Like we didn't lose a game for like 5 years in youth basketball, right? We were like the most hated team. Like I think back upon those teams where it's like Patrick Beverly pushing Chris Paul, right?
Same idea.
So much drama. Like that's how I remember those games, like super epic. But anyway, and I was older, bigger. I've always been taller, and just played every sport, right? Like little league, shortstop, pitcher, right? And that's what I was used to. And then part of what my high school experience is just learning that it's different. It's more serious in high school, right? There's teams that are practicing every single day, just like you are. Teams that are practicing twice a day in the summer when it comes to football, right? And so yeah, I played every sport. When I started out, I played 3 sports in high school. I played football, I played basketball, and I played baseball. And like I still remember those summers, 3 practices a day. 3 practices a day. I still remember that. And then we're doing 2-a-days for football. I don't think I ever had 4 practices. That sounds insane.
Yeah.
So I started off playing all those. I thought, I've always played all the sports. I've never played them all at the high school level. So it was an interesting experience. So I ended up kind of whittling down, right? I did not finish playing basketball. I played 2 years of football and was like, that's a lot to do, right? I'll be honest, it wore me down. Ended up, I did played baseball through my senior year, and I had a great senior year. That was amazing. It was a terrific experience. But yeah, my big takeaway from high school is I don't understand these multi-sport athletes, how they do it. I don't understand how you're playing 3 sports. I really don't get it. But yeah, that's kind of my experience. I know we played together for sure. It was our freshman basketball team.
Yes.
For sure.
So I was gonna say, this is the first time we haven't played football together. Even though you were playing football, you played 2 years. I didn't start playing football until my junior year, and you were not playing by then. So we were teammates technically on freshman basketball. That was an interesting team. But so you stepped more away from football. Was it because you didn't like it as much, or was it? I know you had some injuries. Was it or like migraines, and there was a couple things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, mostly what it does, like looking back and remembering it's hard to do, right? But it's like the way I remember it is just being worn down. Yeah. But for football, I mean, it's hard to paint the picture. So it's a small school we went to, right? I had never played football until high school. So freshman year was the first year, and I loved it. When I think back upon it, a lot of the lessons I've learned in life are hard work and pushing through every single day, even though you don't feel like it, right? That's becoming an adult. Life doesn't give a shit if you wake up and you aren't feeling it, right? You have to go perform. And that's life lessons you learn in high school and through football. You're just not going to show up to practice because you don't feel like it, right?
Exactly.
So I loved it. I put in a good first year, and like I said, playing 3 sports, it was like, what the hell am I doing? My sophomore year, it was a lot. It was everything. I think I just mentally started to break down. You're right. I got a lot of migraines. I go to practice in football, and it's like, it's just not feeling up to it. Like I just not feeling like I could practice. I never had any bad ligament tears. I never had any bad physical damage. It was just the experience, because football, amazingly physical. I mean, obviously, you know that.
Right.
Yeah. And just day after day, I don't know if I just wasn't used to it. Like I would just sit there and throw up some days for like all day, and just sit there and have to go home from school. And at a certain point I was like, I tried to push through it my sophomore year, and I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it. I said, I love this. I have teammates. Like I said, it was my identity, it was who I was. I've never not gone about thinking from sports 24/7. ever. I still do.
Seriously.
Ever since I was a little kid, like I said, right. And it's, it was tough. So yeah, eventually I didn't play my junior, senior year. It's one of those things you look back on and you can regret it. I think I could have had an amazing career if I would have stuck with it. On the other hand, it was, it was totally wearing me down. So I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things. My body just couldn't take the hits. I never, it's not like I ever went to a doctor and officially got diagnosed with a concussion, but looking back on it and what we know about that sort of thing, it's like, dude, I think my little high school head was taking a pounding or something was going on.
I think so too. And to give a little context to this, our high school is very small. So people do play multiple sports, but at the level that JD was playing, I mean, he played on varsity football as a freshman, having been your first year playing. And so you kind of just were thrown right in there. And obviously you were, physical for that stage. So you didn't really seem like you were a freshman. You seemed like you were at least a sophomore or junior physically. So yeah, I guess it kind of, that's interesting. I mean, it's give and take. And I mean, at least you eventually figured out that it was taken more away from you than it was good you doing it and being able to live and be a high schooler and be a person, and yeah, you continue playing baseball. At least you found something that you liked to play and that you were able to put more time into playing and, ground yourself. And I mean, you had a tremendous senior year in baseball. I can't remember exactly what your ERA was, but it was very low.
It was pretty microscopic. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and toot my own horn, right? I didn't play collegiately or anything like that, but yeah, at the end of the day, it was worth it. I was really glad I had that senior year because I'll be honest, yeah, I was upset with myself for most of my high school. It's like that's who I was. I showed up. I played 3 sports. I again was one of the larger, bigger kids. I haven't grown an inch since I was in 7th grade, right? I have the same physical profile I did then, and it was like that's who I was at a small school, right? If you're an athletic kid and you're big, you're showing up and you're an integral part of the team. Like that's a huge identity. Like Bishop is accomplishing amazing things right now as a small school. They're putting on things that schools that size just do not do. It is a great program. Tom Crawford is like, honestly, I just don't see how you can have a better high school coach than him. And obviously that's the only one I would know. So yeah, most of the high school experience, I was just mad at myself. It's like, why can't I complete this? And looking back, it's, again, it's not that I want to have regrets because I was happy how it turned out and I found other avenues to make it work. Right. But yeah, it is a little upsetting, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but it's interesting because you were faced with that decision maybe earlier on than some other people have been faced with that decision. Like you were sophomore year and you knew something had to change and you had to decide one way or another on things. So that's interesting. So I guess I never really found this out. I'm sure you could have played collegiately. Was that something that, in at least baseball, since you did play that for the rest of your high school career and were very good, did you entertain that at all? Did you just kind of be like, I'm kind of, done with it after high school?
I always thought about it. So I ended up going just in high school. It wasn't really a priority, to be honest with you. It was, by that point I had kind of realized there are other avenues, right? College is a big thing in my family, pushing it academically. I had realized at that point, it just wasn't a priority in my life. Looking back on it, do I wish I think I definitely for sure could have, but it's not one of those things again that I look back and have regrets on. I think especially if I would have gone to like a small, like an easier program I could have walked on. I ended up going to University of the Pacific, which It's a D1 school. Their program is not very good, honestly. So there were a couple of years, actually, I really thought about it, about staying in town, over summer and meeting the coach and working out. But at that point, you know how college is, right? I had found other interests. I was not into it. So
I get that. Well, so you went to University of Pacific, which is Northern California. For everyone listening, you did get into lacrosse at some point, and so you did play collegiately to some degree. It wasn't exactly a D1 like level, but you you played pretty competitively. So how was that lacrosse experience for you? Did you play lacrosse before? How did you get into that? What are the kind of insights to you making the jump to lacrosse?
Yeah, so I guess I showed up in college, and like I said, I'd never gone a second without breathing and living sports. So at first I showed up to the open gyms literally every single day as a freshman, every single day for basketball, and did that for, pretty much the whole freshman year, and was like, all right, I don't know, intramurals from a freshman to a senior year. I was on, I think, 3 to 4 teams every single, and I think they ran like trimesters. I think it was on 3 to 4 for every single trimester since I was there. And I was like, it's just not, it's not organized. Yep. It's not, I've never gone since I was, I don't know, 5 years old playing organized sports. So I was like, I have to do something.
Yeah, makes sense.
And and you're correct. So it's not, in California, most of the teams are not, they're not D1 programs for lacrosse. They're not, there's not scholarships or nothing like that. It's mostly an East Coast sport, right? There's a few decent teams on the West Coast. Pacific's for sure not one of them. So it's mostly like high level club sports. So anyway, my roommate at the time, he was at our bachelor party.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He was the captain. So he grew up in Seattle, where it's huge. Lacrosse is huge, and I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about lacrosse. I've never heard of that sport. Yep. I know Jim Brown played it, collegiately, and Jim Thorpe or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know what that sport is. And he kept pressuring me. He was my roommate freshman year, pressured me like every single day. He'd go to practice, a couple times a week, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what that is. That's not a real sport. What is it? And then sophomore year, like I said, I was so like, I needed something. I'd never not had organized sports in my life. I didn't know what to do with my day. So I'm finally like, whatever, I'll give it a chance. And then I ended up playing 3 years, joining the team. Like I said, it's not like, I don't know how most club teams work, but it's fairly high level. Like we practice 3-4 times a week. We practice 5 in the morning sometimes when we had to, right? Practice before the sun comes out, practice under the lights. It's not like I'm calling myself a college athlete, not by any means. But it was an experience. I'd never played before. I didn't know the rules. I had to sit there and learn and watch. I never got particularly good. That was for sure the worst I've ever been at any sport, because I never played it. The hand-eye coordination is totally different. It's almost like baseball. If someone tries to swing at a live pitch, past, I don't know, the 6th grade, 7th grade.
Yeah.
Some people are more advanced, for sure by high school age. They're going to look like an absolute fool out there, right?
Right.
So that's how I felt for sure. Like my sophomore year, I finally kind of got a hang of it, but yeah, that was an experience.
So clearly, it humbles you a little bit, and because you want to be a part of this team sport, but at least up and throughout high school, you were one of the best players on the team typically in said sport. So I mean, it must have been a little bit uncomfortable at first, just jumping into something that you've never done before. But I mean, I'm sure you had some good takeaways from your experience playing lacrosse. And now, I mean, I know it's not a technical D1 program, since it's like high level club, I guess you would call it. But I mean, from the practices, and so, I mean, it sounds like a very at least organized program, and you guys played good competition, and so I mean, you were involved. So what were we able to take away from that? That's interesting.
It's a crazy experience to talk about, honestly. And I haven't ever talked about it much. It was extremely humbling. I've never felt like that before. I've never felt like doing things you're not good at is the worst thing in the world. It is. Like, doing things you're good at is the most fun you could possibly have. It's like a state of bliss being good at something, right? It was awful. The weird thing is, our coach, actually, if you look him up, because our team was not good, and I was not good. Our coach, Coach Frank, I'm going to butcher his name. I'm going to butcher his last name. So I'm not even going to say it. Coach Frank. Okay. He played at Albany. Okay. This guy is an absolute lacrosse legend. I didn't know who the hell he was. I showed up day one. I don't know. This is a club team, right? This is easy. We're going to twiddle some sticks.
We're drink while we do it.
Yeah. We'll drink in the morning and then go, right? This guy's a legend. He was a runner-up at Albany, national champion lacrosse team at the University of Albany. He was one of the runner-ups, like for the lacrosse Heisman Trophy, basically the equivalent. He was one of the top 5 players in the nation. I had to look him up before this because I looked up his name. I'm still going to butcher his last name.
No, we'll put it.
Coach Frank.
We'll put it on the screen. We'll put it on the screen. A couple of screenshots of his name and what he accomplished. That sounds pretty awesome.
He's a top 3 scorer all time in high school lacrosse. This dude's an absolute legend of the game, and he's sitting there coaching me, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It was a crazy experience, but that was awesome because he believed in me. He showed me. He clearly could tell I've played every sport there is. I knew where to stand. I knew how to hit. It's a physical game. You can lay people out. I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to hold on to the ball. But anyway, it was a great experience. And having a guy like that, one of the best lacrosse players literally in the entire world, one of the best lacrosse players that's ever existed, there to watch you through it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, you're comparing it to football a little bit there. So I'm curious about that. So you can hit. Personally, I don't know much about lacrosse. Again, for those listening, in California, it's not nearly as big as it is on the East Coast. And the other sport on the East Coast that's basically non-existent here is field hockey. Field hockey basically does not exist here at all. So these kind of sports are not big here. So I've never played lacrosse. I have watched the occasional national championship game that shows up on ESPN, but I don't know any of the rules essentially. I mean, you have a stick and you like twirl it around and there's a goalie but so you can hit people essentially.
Yeah, it's pretty much full contact. It's very similar to hockey in a lot of ways. I think that's the best comparison I can make because people love to compare it to, I mean, the physicality of it, I think, is most similar to hockey because it's full contact like football. You're wearing helmets. You're right. It's full contact, but it's at certain times. Like in hockey, you can check the guy who has the puck, right? And I think usually when you're in an attacking dynamic, it's 6 versus 6, which is similar to hockey, where it's usually 5 versus 5. The difference in hockey, right, is you can't just skate around with the puck because you're going to get lit up in half a millisecond because the rink is so small, right?
True.
The best comparison I can make in international hockey, actually the rink is larger. So if you watch international hockey, you can skate around more with the puck, but it's full contact. So it's like the perfect combination of physicality and skill and team dynamic. It's actually a really good sport. Is it ever going to blow up mainstream? I'm not quite sure, but it's a really interesting sport because it combines all those qualities, right? So I think some people that might be like of the similar mindset, especially on the East Coast and Midwest, because it's popular in similar areas, I think they might just gravitate towards hockey more, would be my opinion. But it's almost similar in what I was talking about, how you need the hand-eye coordination, right? Like if I step in a hockey rink right now, not only I can't skate because I grew up in California and never skated. I'm not going to have that like great hand-eye coordination with the puck, right? So that's my closest comparison.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I mean, clearly an interesting dynamic with your coach, who was a legend in the game, and everything else, that just learning it and diving into something you've never done before. So, I mean, and you must have had your teammates, like you at least enjoyed like the experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I enjoyed it probably more than I did at the time because, like I said, it was frustrating for me. Yeah. I'm just one of those people, like I can't accept being bad at something. I need to work and work and work. And it's one of those things where it was at that point in my life, if I worked and worked and worked, it was still going to take 2 years until I got comfortable. And even then I graduated. I was like, dude, I wish I had 2 more years to figure it out.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good point. So back to what you were saying earlier about being comfortable. I mean, so you were always good at a lot of different sports. So jumping into something that you were uncomfortable with isn't as fun, right? Because you're like not starting necessarily. You are like learning a ton of stuff and trying to figure it out all while you're trying to work on the dynamic of the game and all that different stuff. So it can definitely be frustrating and overwhelming, but I would argue that that's when you learn the most. I mean, when you get comfortable in a sport is when I mean, you're good at it to a certain degree, but if you're ever going to make that jump to the next level, you always got to live in, some sort of uncomfortable realm, because you need to be learning and trying to figure things out better than you were. So, I mean, I think that's, even though you didn't necessarily like it in the moment, that kind of friction and uncomfortability probably helped you overall as a person and where you developed into being now.
Yeah, I think it has more takeaways for me today, right? Like before we hopped on, like I said, my power was out, right? And I was like, that's because I changed the light last week. And I'm like, I didn't grow up, knowing how the hell these, fixing electrical wires works. I don't know. But that's the thing now. Like I'm a homeowner. I got to go do shit I've never tried before. And if it doesn't work, the house burns down. So better figure it out quick. Right. So there's definite takeaways. You're not going to wake up and do fun stuff all day long, right? You can have a nice mixture in there, a nice sprinkle. But the older you get, you realize, right, it's one of those old person sayings, like you're just going to have to do stuff that, grin and bear it.
Yeah, you're always going to have to figure stuff out. So getting comfortable being uncomfortable lets you grow a lot in short periods of time. So, and learn things in short periods of time, like switching out light bulbs and whatever it may be as being a homeowner. So that's interesting. So college lacrosse was essentially your last competitive sports that you played. So transitioning out of playing competitive sports, what was it like for you? I know you always, and I'm sure a lot of you watching and listening have that same itch to always playing sports and doing something and organized things and being around that. So how was that transition period away from it? What did you do? Did you get more into pickup basketball? Like, what did you do after that?
It was hard. It was, I spent the first couple of years out of college. I basically just became a workaholic is basically what I did to replace it. Cause you're correct. Like you're like me, anyone who's a sports geek, who's way too into it. Like I said, like you compare everything, to sports. You somehow have an analogy to sports. If you're having a conversation over a couple of beers, you eventually end up talking about somehow some random player from the early 2000s. You end up talking about Brian Cardinal or something, and how we somehow defeated LeBron James. It's what you are. So I just tried to replace it. I just became a workaholic. I worked. I was working in the financial industry, looking at loans,
right.
And we were just understaffed, and they were paying overtime for however much you could do, and was just working 12 hours a day, sometimes more, while also commuting, and just did that for a couple of years, and was eventually like, I can try to replace it by trying to be the best I could be. Like I think we had 130, 140 people on the floor, and right, you would get bonuses for being top 10. So of course I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Top 10, that's it. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy. Are you kidding me? So I'd have to try to do that every month, and was obsessed with doing that. And, after a year of that, it's like, am I going to do this my whole life? Just compete to be in the top 10 of 130? Like, yeah. I'm not so sure, but that's what I did to start. And, eventually ended up not really being worth it. But yeah, you have to compete at something, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you translated that directly to work. And obviously, yeah, that's not still what you're doing now. So I mean, you jumped into that also trying to figure that whole thing out, and then you're like, well, this isn't exactly getting my gears turning every day, and for the rest, like it's not. I don't want to be doing this every day for the rest of my life, type of thing, and that what's my impact going to be? Like, what am I actually doing, type of thing. So clearly, you had a little bit of time to think about things, and then you went another direction, right?
Yeah. So I remember, when I put in my 2 weeks notice, my boss was like, "What are you talking about? Right? Like you're killing it out here. You're sure you're gonna put in your 2 weeks notice?" And basically, it's just like, I don't know, maybe I'm one of those people that just like can't do anything for too long. I don't know what it is, but it's like, if I'm 100% positive, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. Why am I going to pretend and try to do it for 5 years instead of 2? Right? I'm like, what's the point? I already know. My mind is made up. I'm 100% positive. So I decided to transition. I decided I need to do what's going to make me happy, because if I try to sit here in the business world and be overproductive for 40 years, I'm going to be a grumpy ass old man by the end of it. And, I'm not going to sit there and wait for retirement. So anyway, long story short, I made a huge huge career transition after like 2 years. So yeah, I know I had a midlife crisis after 2 years of work, and that's it'll age you quick. The business world.
Seriously.
But yeah, so now I'm an English teacher. I'm a high school English teacher. I'm finishing up year 4. It's almost summer break, thank God. But yeah, I teach high school English. And that's about as big of a transition. I remember telling my boss I was doing that, and he's like, "What? I don't get it. What's going on here?" I'm like, it's hard for me to explain. That's what I enjoy. I'm a book nerd at heart. You know, when I'm not watching sports, it's that and reading. And so it's who I've always been. And this is something where I can do 12 hours of my day, dedicating it to that, and while also, you know, trying to make a positive impact while trying to, you know, everything that goes along with teaching. I'm not going to give you the whole teacher spiel. Everyone knows what it is, right? But
exactly.
I said, this is what I can dedicate myself to, and still feel good at the end of the day, while still also trying to be the best at what I do. So that's what I do now.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. It's a complete flip again. If you want to compare it to where you were at sports, doing all the sports and things that, you're comfortable, and then completely going to something opposite, and then going into the real world and doing kind of doing 180s also. And, but once you figure out the avenue that you want to go, then it makes it a whole lot easier in terms of you putting in effort and figuring things out. And, it makes it easier on you. And I mean, that's interesting. And it takes a little bit of time to figure that out. It happens at different times for everybody, obviously. Some people know earlier than later, but you got to try that 2 or 3 years of a, dead financial job that's going to run you into the ground to make you realize that, this actually isn't what I want to be doing. And, what I want to be doing is reading books, and you're really into reading books, which is awesome, by the way, because I am like the opposite of that. So I'll read books that I find an interest in the topics, such as business, like different things like that. Some like really, really highly praised, like life books and perspective books and things like that. But other than that, I am not an avid reader like you are, but it's awesome to, be self-aware about that too, and understand that that's you. And now you're able to help like do that at a real job with real students. And, yeah. So you're teaching high school, right? So just every grade, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mostly have freshmen now. I've somehow become the freshman guy, and now I'm coaching freshman basketball.
Oh, you are?
So I just have all freshmen, and it's like, of course, freshmen aren't freshmen. So it's yeah, I'm the freshman dude apparently.
So you can imagine the role reversal when we were on the freshman basketball team with who was our coach, Mr. Flanagan?
I think we had
Caprito. Oh, it was Caprito. Yeah. Caprito.
Yeah, Flanny was helping out with freshman football. He helped out with everything.
Yeah, he helped out with everything.
Caprito was the coach.
That's right. Well, I mean, it is kind of weird, thinking back to that, and then now you see yourself, being Caprito, basically.
It's the weirdest thing to think about, because I don't feel that much older, right? I'll sit here and talk about my high school experience. It feels like it was not all that long ago. It's the weirdest thing in the world. And of course, these kids, they're always trying to trick you and thinking they know better than you, and thinking they're so mature, right? And thinking they have the whole world figured out. And I'm like, dude, come on. We've all been in your shoes.
I've been through the ringer.
Yeah, we've all been there, man. You're not fooling us, man.
Well, because you used to be that kid. You used to be
that kid.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
So now that you're doing that, I mean, so you still love sports, and I know we're big into college football. I know you're a big Oregon Ducks fan. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into that, and then translating that into what you've also been doing in sports writing, talking about college football on various shows and different things. Give us a little insight into that, because that's interesting, and that's a good way to still get that outlet of, something that you love to do.
Yeah, that's a big part of my life. It's a huge part of my life. Spend hours on it every day, and I love it. It's difficult to say how it got started. It basically got started during the pandemic. So I've always been a huge college football guy. That sports part of my life, like I said, this was before I was coaching. I was teaching. Things are going great. I'm very occupied. I'm spending a lot of time, right, dedicating it towards my classroom. And then COVID-19 happens, as everyone's well aware, right?
Hopefully.
And And all of a sudden, I have a ton of time on my hands, free time. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this free time. So I'm sitting there bored. And eventually I just dedicated to watching old college football games. I'm like, I'm just going to write about this and see who cares, put it out online, and do a little more of that, And eventually it leads towards, okay, we like what you have to say. You should write for us. First site I'm writing for happens.
Yeah.
It goes by a couple months. Another site says, oh, that's interesting. You should write for us. Okay. They start making YouTube videos. So say, okay, well, talk about it as well. I got free time, right? The class is slowing down. We're doing Zoom school. I don't have to commute anymore. I commute about an hour away is where my school is. And it just takes off. Next thing you know, now I've got like 5 different things I'm doing on the side, just talking about college football, writing about college football, traveling to Canton, Ohio to do a college football fantasy draft. Which I think I'm doing again this August. I did that last August.
That's cool.
And yeah, here I am now. Apparently, I'm a college football guy. It just snap of the fingers.
College football analyst over here. So what draws you to college football? I'm curious because you are a big college football guy. You've always been a college football guy. I know you were always an Oregon Ducks fan. What do you love about college football? You know, it could be something earlier on in your life that drew you to it, or more recently as you've gotten back into being a part of it and analyzing it and all that different stuff.
I think if we're going back to where it first started, I think it was just college game day, waking up in the morning on Saturday and being like, what the heck is this? This guy's wearing mascot heads, right?
Lee Corso.
It's like, what on earth is happening here? What is this? My family had always been big college football fans. My mom graduated from Notre Dame. We always grew up going to the games. We flew back to South Bend, I think twice when I was a kid. We always tried to go and still do try to go when they play USC at the Coliseum, right? It was just my college experience, my sporting experience. Live sports are magical, as anyone who's been to a game is aware, right? So that was just my first magical experience. I think is where it first started, just growing up, seeing that live game, college game day. And I've just never quit. I think what it is now, if I could try to explain it, why I still am so into it. I'm not sure if it makes me a hipster or what's going on here. It's just so different. Like you have 130 whatever teams, right? Now we're adding James Madison, so I don't know the exact count. Somewhere around 130. We'll call it 130. It's just you can have military academies running the triple option. You have the air raid throwing for 5,000 yards a year. Joe Burrow just breaks a record and almost goes to a Super Bowl. 2 years later, there's some guy nobody's ever heard of transferring from Stephen F. Austin, breaking all of Joe Burrow's records that he just broke. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. You have Reggie Bush being absolutely untackleable and then somehow losing his Heisman. There's just always something extremely weird and interesting happen. Any single Saturday you turn it on and there's something just, you can't explain it. It's just totally unique. Nowhere else in the world is there anything similar. I dare you to try to say it's as awesome if there is something similar. Anything similar to college football. It's so unique. Like, who has these athletes performing where millions of people are watching and fans are showing up and tailgating all day to watch college athletes like representing their college? It's just such a unique concept. It's so interesting. It's so uniquely American. And it's just absolutely the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of great points there. I mean, yeah, it's super unique. There isn't another thing like it. There's so many teams. It's not a professional league, but it's played at a professional like level. Especially D1 college football. There's some of the best players in the world that, I mean, oftentimes go and play and excel in the NFL. So watching in all the different fan bases from all the different areas and seeing how they come together and the huge fan bases, the huge stadiums. These stadiums are bigger than NFL stadiums, and there's more college fans than NFL. I mean, it's crazy how many college fans there are compared to, the NFL. Yeah, sure, the NFL has a ton of fans too, but these college stadiums are literally bigger, way bigger than the NFL stadiums, like Penn State and Michigan, and like these college stadiums are huge. And I mean, I know from, experience playing it that I didn't realize originally when I was going into playing it how much life for a lot of people revolves around this. And, you know, that translates to the NFL as well. But Saturday is literally like college football day for so many people. And I didn't realize or fathom, because I never grew up with it, about how much of an effect it had on people's lives every day, every week, all of the above. And honestly, if I knew that and I grew up with it, I probably would have tried to keep playing, because I just know how much an effect it has on people and doing things. And, you know, you can connect and grow yourself so much at a scale, you know, with a fan base behind you and a lot of different things. So it's super unique. I agree. I love it. I remember the bus rides up to the games. I would, you know, look out and see everyone tailgating out there. I still have never been to a tailgate, you know, for good or bad, but
you gotta go. You gotta do it. We gotta hit one up soon.
All right,
you gotta.
All right, this season we'll go. I'm actually gonna go to UConn. We're playing Michigan this year at the Big House, and that's
as big as it gets. That is the Big House.
That is the biggest, literally the Big House. And you know, we don't play Michigan very often, especially at the Big House. I think right before we got there, a couple of years before we got there, we did play Michigan, home and away series with Michigan, but it'll happen once every maybe, you know, 10 to 20 years or something like that. So, you know, I figured I've definitely got to go to that. I go back, at least I have most years, to an alumni game or things, you know, back at UConn, but I definitely, we got to hit one, in the town too. I know we got a lot of teams up north by you that are very good too. You got Stanford up there, and you know, a lot of good teams. So yeah, we'll definitely hit one for sure.
Yeah, that's the experience right there. I'm telling you, it is the American experience. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I mean,
you're like I've played in the games.
Yeah, I'm like I've always just gone and I've like experienced. Like I feel like I haven't experienced it. I mean, UConn's a little bit different. You know, we're a basketball school, I guess, but it's the same idea. We have, I think our stadium holds like 40,000 or 40-ish thousand. You know, it's a lot of people, and every time we drive up, and there'd be thousands of people there tailgating, and you know, it's unique. And like I said, I didn't understand the magnitude of it until I was already in it and almost out of it. And by the time I'm out of it, then it's like, whoa, like there's so many people involved and revolves around it and constantly, and it's awesome. And that's why I love talking to, you know, my friends that still play, and because they have such an effect on the fan base, and people, you know, rally around them, and a lot of different things. So I mean, it's super unique. So college football, as you said, it evolves so many different ways, and it's evolved a lot in the past few years, especially basically since I stopped playing. The NCAA was pressured to do a lot of different things. The college football playoff started. What do you think about the new playoff system compared to the old BCS? You like it? You think it should be expanded? What do you think?
It's gonna probably not be the answer you expect. I don't really care. And I know that's weird. Like I said, I'm so into all the weird, unique games. Like, it's weird. I just care about, like I said, these weird military academies playing, and I care about the civil conflict.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. So I mean, that is a good point. Some of the main parts of college football are all these crazy like rivalry games and things like that. I mean, there's like the
that's
Harvard.
What it is. That's the essence. That's the essence. Whoever's playing for the championship, whatever. The essence, these rivalry games will not change. Michigan, Ohio State will not change. That is what is
Harvard,
there.
Harvard, Yale. You know, there's some cool ones. Yeah. So to talk about that a little bit, you know, we have the civil conflict, which I will get into in a second, because I have some inside information on that we can discuss. But
okay, we need that.
We need that. So yeah, we played the military academies every year I was there. So we played Army and Navy. Navy joined the American Conference when we were in the American Conference. So they were on our schedule. They're in conference. We played them every year. And then Army, we also played, even though they are still a independent. I think they're still independent. Yeah.
I believe they were last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, now we are technically independent, which is interesting. That's another conversation. But because we went back to Big East for basketball and, you know, different things,
Yeah.
which probably was a good move. But, you know, we got to figure out our conference for football. That's you kind of need it, especially unless you're Notre Dame, you know, that can be independent, because they have so many games and so many rivalries that are high level that, you know, Notre Dame USC that you were talking about, they play every year, and that's, you know, one of the best rivalry, I mean, biggest games there is, for sure.
It's just easier for them. I totally agree with you. It's almost always beneficial 99.9% of the time. These conferences make sense. They're just a weird case study. Like they can, they just have so much sway, right? And their games pull so many viewers, and they have the television rights already set up. They don't really have to, right, go out of their way. It's just a unique deal. Everyone else's television rights revolve around the conference. Everything does. Scheduling does. For them, they schedule whoever they want.
And they almost always compete at a high level. You know, I mean, and you know, they've been in the playoff a few times. I know. So our coaching staff at UConn entire coaching staff came from Notre Dame. You know, Bob Diaco, who I love as a coach, he was the defensive coordinator on Notre Dame last time they went to the national championship, and with Manti Te'o and that whole thing. So he brought a lot of guys from Notre Dame. So, you know, I you know, love my Notre Dame guys, and I you know, still have a lot of people that coach there now. They went back after, you know, UConn. So love Notre Dame. Where was I going with that? I can't remember where I was going with it, but it's super unique. So we played Army. So one of the coolest games we played was Army, that we played at Yankee Stadium. So, like, you know, you get the whole history and stuff evolved. I think they play like 1 or 2 games there a year, something like that. The Navy Army game is one of the most storied rivalries. Even, you know, we're not Navy and we weren't playing against Army, but, you know, they always have the triple option, and, you know, we had to prepare for that every year. Literally the worst week of practice of all time every year. hate it. It sucks. But I mean, it clearly works for them and their personnel, because you have weight limits and, you know, all these different things. So, I mean, that's interesting, but their rivalry game's interesting, and, you know, their games are just, the clock's running, and you gotta, if you don't score on a possession, like, you're going to lose the game. Basically, it's pretty crazy how they operate. But yeah, I mean, so that, I mean, I agree with you. That is the essence of college football, and I enjoyed that part about it a lot, because, I mean, that's where all, you know, the relationships are, and the people and the culture and all that different stuff. So, I mean, that's a great point. That's what really matters.
And for me to say that, it probably sounds weird to some, like, people growing up in the South, going to these SEC games where they grew up going to, you know, like a pig roast, you know, tailgate. They're like, what do you know about college football? You went to the Coliseum to watch Reggie Bush, you know, get paid under the table and juke around a couple defenders, and Jimmy Clausen didn't make a first down until the third quarter in the pouring rain, and all the
shout out,
fans
he played against Bishop back in the day.
Yes, we played. Yes, we know. Unfortunately, he got a lot of first downs. I don't even know if he got any first downs. They were all touchdowns.
They were literally,
he may have not gotten a first down. He probably didn't get one because he was out by the third quarter.
Every play was a touchdown, and they won by like 60 or something. Okay, so these are some of the new rules in college football. The NIL, players can sign. I think everyone agrees that that's a good thing. Players should be able to make face value for at least their name and likeness. I mean, it's pretty basic, and there was a lot of stupid rules before that. I think everyone agrees were stupid rules, right? I mean, you're on the same page about that. Yeah, no brainer.
I think everyone at this point knows. And it's weird because it's actually changed pretty quickly. Like, when you look back at the timeline of it, it's changed so quickly. But now it's just weird how quickly, like, public consensus is just like 100%. Like, oh, it's so obvious. It's like, well, 5 years ago, this was a conversation. But no, yeah, I totally agree. Dude, yeah, absolutely.
I was playing 5 years ago, and now to now, I mean, it only happened 2 years ago, maybe. Like, so, I mean, in the beginning, it's like, okay, what do we even do? Like, this, it's a wild west of like, okay, the floodgates are open. Like, how is it going to evolve? And so it's going to it's still filling out of what's going to happen, what kind of numbers are going to, thrown around everywhere. You'll see big time recruits that haven't even played a snap get $1 million of, NIL money, which is crazy. But with social media and building brands and a lot of different stuff, it makes sense. Like market value, being able to get market value for yourself makes sense. So, that's fine and dandy. And then the transfer portal, right? So this is something that's interesting. So I had Tim Boyle on my last podcast episode, and he transferred his junior year and had to sit out a year, right? So you had to sit out because that was just the rule. And so he lost an entire year of eligibility, which was, I guess, technically his redshirt year. But then he gets there, only has, 1 year, and he was sitting out as a 22-year-old senior, right? So, I mean, that was 5 years ago, basically, also. And then now it's like everyone's transferring everywhere and playing immediately. So, I mean, what do you think about the transfer portal? I mean, I think it's better than it was. I mean, they shouldn't make players sit out. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But clearly, it's still in a wild phase of like everything's just flying all over the place, and players are just saying they're transferring and for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the coin, right? And of course, both of them have valid points. There's the side of the coin with the players, like you said, players' rights. It's America, where it's a whole society built upon do what you have to do to get paid, earn your market value, right? That's the whole system. And then for some reason, it was just randomly different for college athletes. It just didn't make sense. So we finally kind of realized that was weird. And it's still evolving is the thing I'll say. It's still changing so quickly because this was the most wild offseason of all time. The transfer portal with NIL, with everything. I think, I don't know, it's going to get more crazy for a couple of years. Eventually something's going to have to change. Like they're already talking about there could be a total split among Power 5 and G5. Honestly, if you told me anything like 3 years, if you told me 3 years from now in 2025, college football landscape looks like this, you could tell me pretty much anything and I would believe you because it's changing rapidly. We've opened the floodgates. I think it's a good thing. In general, of course, what I care about, I'm a fan. The fans have their complaints. Your player moves. You don't want him to move. Pittsburgh just had one of their best seasons in a long time, right? Kenny Pickett, despite his microscopic hands, and staying in college for 6 years, he has a great season. This isn't a Kenny Pickett slander. I'm going somewhere with this, right? And he has a great year, and Pitt fans are like, this is awesome. We watched this guy struggle for 3-4 years, right? And then now he finally breaks out. And then all of a sudden in the offseason, right, Jordan Addison, their star wide receiver, who really helps Kenny Pickett get drafted. Kenny Pickett probably owes a lot of his salary to Jordan Addison. All of a sudden now he's in the transfer portal, and it's a bidding war for who's going to have his services. And you're sitting there as a Pitt fan like, what the hell, man? Yeah. So now we lose our quarterback and our wide receiver because our wide receiver just wants to enter a bidding war. At the end of the day, a fan, I understand, because like I said, what makes college football important, a lot of it ties back into the loyalty of these fan bases, right? And how you get these totally unique atmospheres, these totally unique experiences. There are towns where pretty much the whole economy, right, revolves around these colleges and their programs, right? Like, what is Tuscaloosa, Alabama? What's Clemson, South Carolina, right? What are all the name after a name, right? It's crazy. And so part of me, it makes me very concerned about the long-term health of the sport, right? If we just become a total bidding war and a total business, it just kind of, you can kind of see it's just unquestioned. Like I said, in 3 years, you can tell me anything what sport looks like, and I would agree with you. So I wouldn't be able to doubt it, right? But overall, there's one point. Overall, despite all those concerns, I think it's what's right for the players. And as a fan, as someone who talks about the sport, someone who covers it, right? Who am I to try to say my opinion and my team and my tailgate is more important than these players that are literally putting on the product, sacrificing their bodies, sacrificing everything they do every single day to be great at the sport. At the end of the day, I care about them and their success. And I think both of these things, NIL and the transfer portal is great for them. So at the end of the day, all I have to say, it's just overwhelmingly positive. I'm not going to sit here and make my complaints, whether they be valid or not. They're clearly not as important as the other side of the coin.
I totally agree, and that's a great perspective to have. I mean, as someone who played college football, I appreciate that you look at it that way, because not everyone does look at it that way. There are a lot of fans that are like basically it's like an NFL type of like we're paying you, like all this different stuff. So Yes, I think it's right. I mean, they've talking about recently about potentially putting just more restrictions on not being able to have NIL deals run where you're going or who you're going to. So they're talking about some rule that would be put in place along with this, so that you couldn't. There would be something that you have to commit before the NIL deal, or you couldn't be offered deals before you committed to somewhere or something like that, to help mitigate some of the, going where the dollar amount is the biggest and then resetting every year, and everyone else going where dollar amount is biggest. So, I mean, there has to be some balance there, right? Yeah, players can be able to do that, and they should be able to do that if they want to. But, I mean, it can't just be everyone transfers everywhere every year, because, that's not how you make any good teams, right? I mean, yes, high-level programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, all these guys at the top, Georgia, they'll have a good team every year just because they have the best recruits coming in every year. And so they've already established them as a top, recruiting place. So they're going to get the guys every year. And when all the guys leave next year, they'll be fine, because they'll just do it again, like they have for the last 10 to 15 years, basically. So yeah, it's a give and take, but yeah, I think it's overall good. It's a Wild West, but you've got to adjust, and coaching staffs are doing that, and we'll see that in the game a little bit. People are being more nimble, obviously, since COVID too. People are just more flexible in the way things are done, and not as entrenched into their ways of how things have to be done, and a lot of different things like that. So yeah, I think it's interesting. That's an interesting conversation, and that can be a whole different segment in itself. I mean, you could talk about that for days, about how that works and the dynamics of it and all that kind of stuff.
It's a perfectly unique problem, right? Like I said, there's just not like a perfect analogy to make. There's not a perfect precedent to look at, right? So it's a very interesting topic. It's extremely confusing. It's one that I try to spend a lot of time learning about, right? Obviously, it's covering the sport, and it's like every time I listen to something different or a new piece of news comes across, I'm like, okay, I never really thought of that. Never really, right? Because it's totally new. I'm not making the rules. In the Wild West, the way I try to look at it, hey, the Wild West, sure, you have lawlessness, you have whatever, but it can also be fun, right? So I'm just trying to appreciate the funness of it, the newness of it, the totally unique opportunity.
It is fun, and it will settle into somewhere eventually. So I mean, that's just still so early. It will get into some comfort zone at some point, but it is still so early, and it does make it fun for sure. So we're going to move into second to last segment, which is big questions. So in relation to your sports writing and your college football realm, what do you like about writing the most? Obviously, you cover some parts of different college sports sometimes, but is there a specific thing about college football that you like to cover? What's your favorite there?
That's a tough answer, because I like doing all of it, right? I think my favorite part is just seeing the breakout stars, the new stars, like still remembering. And I know Adrian Peterson was a huge recruit, but like still seeing, and I wasn't covering it at this time, right? But just that every year there's an Adrian Peterson, someone who breaks out and just has a run where they break 8 tackles, and you're like, oh my God, that guy is a superstar. And maybe you've heard the name before, maybe you've never heard the name, and you're like, that is an insane athlete. He is one of the best I have ever seen. And every year it comes out. Sometimes you know who they are. We know, like this year, Bijan Robinson at Texas is pretty remarkable. Got the chance to see him in person last year. He was pretty special, although the Arkansas SEC defense was a little more special. But that is just that thing of like, anything can happen. There's going to be a breakout star, and it's going to happen. There's going to be a handful of them. It happens every year. You just don't always quite know who they are. So it's just trying to guess who it's going to be, trying to anticipate. I just love player evaluation. I find it absolutely fascinating. I find it more fascinating than the NFL. Because the NFL, sure, you have years of film on these guys in college. In college, what do you have? You're going to sit there and look through high school film and try. People try. I try, right? We try to be educated on that topic. But I'd say overall, just watching the games and being like, I don't know, this guy had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Is he the next Is he the next Reggie Bush, or is he the next, I don't know.
And
is he the next anybody?
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Player, like you said, player analysis and breakout stars, and oftentimes you'll see these guys in the NFL draft, going very high. Adrian Peterson's obviously an example of someone that, if you're watching this, probably almost everyone's heard, or if you're on TikTok watching a clip of this, then you've probably heard of Adrian Peterson. If you haven't, go look up Adrian Peterson. Google, type it in right now. Google Adrian Peterson. His
highlights are insane.
They're nuts. An all-time great running back. I mean, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame in the NFL, and I mean, college. I'm sure he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm not actually sure about that. He must be, right?
I don't know, unless he got canceled.
Or,
I don't know. I don't know what that whole situation.
I'm not sure either. Stands. Anyways, all right. So another big question. Since you played sports your entire life, you understand the dynamic of sports, especially college football. So this is the Teammates podcast. So I talk to people about what it means to be a good teammate. So, it can be from your experience or the way you've seen good teammates react to each other. And this also translates into the real world with, teammates, at your school or in your life, your loved ones, this and that. So what do you think, what does being a good teammate mean to you?
It's an interesting point. I'm glad you're asking this because you're getting a wide array of guests, right?
Right.
Right. Because you're going to have so many different answers.
You will.
You're going to keep getting different ones, because being a good teammate, it's almost like asking, right, what is a good person, or what makes a good blank, right? There's so many unique answers you can get, because everyone's going to have a different take based upon their experience, who they are, and the teammates they've had. I don't think I can be, who was it who you had on who was talking about Tim Tebow as a teammate?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
Tyler Davis. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Tim Tebow is an all-time just great dude and person. It's like, how are you gonna match up to that? But I mean, both the guys that I've talked to so far, Tyler Davis on the Packers, and then Tim Boyle was on the Packers. Now is on the Lions, and Tyler was on the Jaguars when Tim Tebow played with him, which is why he was his teammate. So that was that experience. But yeah, so let's hear it.
Yeah, I think it's just I guess the best way I can try to put this, and what I've seen in my limited experience coaching high school basketball as well, right? And so I coach in, I don't think I've said this, I coach in out of Stockton High School, Stockton, California. It's very, very difficult. So I commute about an hour away. It's a difficult place to teach. I teach where I coach. It's you get a lot of interesting things. So what I've seen some very bad teammates. And I think this is what's freshest in my mind. I've also seen some good ones. I think my biggest takeaway, it's anyone who understands how to put the biggest goals at the forefront. And most of the time you think of that as putting the team first instead of I first, right? It's kind of the mantra that gets repeated. It's just who can put away their selfishness for today, whether it be, I need to shoot 8 threes today, and that becomes, right, I need to take 3 charges instead, whatever it needs to be. It's whoever is cognizant, whoever's thinking it. They may not say it, they may be totally silent, they may be a great leader, they may not be a leader. I think being a teammate and being a good leader a lot of time is misconstrued. Anyone can be a good teammate, anyone can contribute, whether it be to the family, whether it be to the classroom, whether it be to your actual team, your actual sports team. I think it's realizing the big picture, right? What's best for me may not be what's best for my family, for my kid, for my wife. It may not be what's best for the point guard, the center, right? It's being able to take a step back and looking at the big picture requires a selflessness, right? So that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Having empathy and understanding the other person's perspectives, and putting the team first, regardless of, like you said, whether, you want to drop 30, but do you want to win? Like what's the actual goal that you're going towards, and then kind of reversing it from there, and putting your actions towards that first, and then performing off of that. So I mean, I think it can a lot of that gets mixed up into oh, like I'm not going to be myself if I'm not a good teammate. I think you can see some of the best teammates are some of the best players. I mean, look at some superstars like Steph Curry, that is one of the most selfless superstars there is. He always tries to make plays for other people and tries to not have it always be about him, even though he's the best shooter of all time. And understanding that, like, you can give up one more shot and try to make a more selfless play. If Steph Curry can do it, then you can do it. So, understanding that, and that is one of the reasons why that team has stuck around for so long. Yes, they haven't won the chip in a few years. Some of them have been injuries and things like that. But you can see in the playoffs, they're still playing hungry, and they're in the Western Conference Finals now, with a chance to go to back to the finals because of some of the things that he does, and being a good teammate and being selfless towards a goal. And that, I think that's just like a big picture example that a lot of people can see happening and relate to, because I mean, obviously, he's a great teammate. So that's a great answer. Thank you for that. How has being a father changed your outlook on life? This is kind of the last big question before we hop into a final Q&A. But you recently, I guess a year ago,
Yeah, he just turned one.
Just turned one, right? And his son also has the same birthday as him, and it was just his birthday. So happy birthday again. It was just both their birthdays, actually. Yeah. How has a father changed your outlook on life or things? It can take it any way you want with that. That's an open-ended question.
Yeah, I guess the easiest way to put it, it just changes everything, right? It's like you trying to explain your outlook on things is hard to say, but it's it kind of goes back to my teammate answer.
Yeah,
I guess it's made me a better teammate.
Yeah.
It's impossible to think about anything without taking a step back and realizing how it would affect him, right? So then, not only what am I going to do, right? Would this reflect poorly upon if he were to grow up and find out, right? It's more that than my own reputation. It doesn't mean as much to me. It more means, what would he think? What would his friends think when he grows up, right? Because he's one. But eventually he's going to be able to form an opinion. It's thinking when world events happen, right? It's not, is this going to affect me? Are my investments going to go down? Is my job going to be affected? It's more of, if my job does get affected, what's that going to do to him, right? How's he going to have his diapers? How's he going to eat at night? How's he going to, right? It's everything. Is he going to go to college? Am I going to be able to help him out with that? It's just every single thing is filtered through a lens. Like every single thing is perceived, is filtered through the lens of how does this affect the person I am responsible for, everything, the person I am responsible for in general, right? So it's a trip. It's really it's overnight. It's instantaneous. It's something you're slowly trying to realize before he's born, before they're born, any kid, right? And then as soon as they're here, it's just like, next thing you know, you've never thought any differently, because you're forced to think on the fly. Okay, there's a tiny human here now, and you have to make sure they're still breathing. So figure it out, buddy.
Yeah. I'm taking a step back and looking at that big picture all the time, and always been cognizant of the effects and the domino effects of anything. I mean, so, I don't have that perspective yet, because, right now, I mean, you can see it a little bit in terms of like, you care about your family and stuff. But as a direct domino sitting right next to you, anything that you push it this way or the other way, it's going to fall with it. So you have to, be careful and understand where you're going with it to know and be aware of that. So that's a great answer. Thank you for that. So final segment, quick Q&A. So we're going to run through some questions, and we'll get some quick answers, and yeah. So let's hop into it. Favorite sport and why?
Play or watch?
We'll go play and watch.
All right. So watch, it's college football. I think I've said why.
Yep.
To play, I think it's basketball, because it's the easiest. I think it just seems natural because you can kind of just pick a ball and play, whether it be in a peach basket in a pool with a little crappy plastic thing that, tilts over in the pool if you Shaquille O'Neal it too hard. You can play 5-on-5, 3-versus-3, 1-on-1. It's just my favorite sport to play because I feel like I've played it the most because there's always an opportunity to play it. And you can play so many different roles and still have fun. So I'm going to go basketball as favorite to play.
That's a fun one. Yeah. I mean, it's very versatile in the way you can play it. You can pick it up anywhere, basically. You could play it yourself. Unlike football, which essentially, you need some sort of organization and foundation to even do anything with it. Yeah, you could just throw with two people, but, that's not an actual game of anything, really. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely more widely available, and, you can play it at a moment's notice, essentially. All right, favorite player growing up that made you want to play? Could be sports in general, football, baseball, basketball, any player that you looked up to growing up?
It's probably not going to be a popular answer. Not exactly probably a crowd favorite. It's Barry Bonds.
Okay. Barry Bonds. Want to give us a quick little reason to why? I mean, obviously he's an all-time great and, power hitter. Sure, he had some run-ins with PEDs, but
he had some run-ins. They were running all through his body, run in, run out, everything you can name. Yeah, I'm not even going to touch on that part. It's just growing up watching him. I grew up a Giants fan.
Yep.
I've never, and still to this day, I've never seen a player be so dominant. Yep. Like I said, baseball's hard. You can go out there. I can go out there. Anyone, you can put anyone out there. You can put them against an 11-year-old throwing the ball, and they will not look as dominant, as perfectly in control, knowing what's going to happen before it happens. Perfect control of the strike zone, right? Absolutely perfect. He didn't miss. The umpire misses more than he did, right? Misses the call more than he did. Just absolute perfect control. He's the best I've ever seen anyone play any sport, a complete mastery of his craft. And yes, he cheated, but there's also a lot of people who cheated and did not look like Barry Bonds. There's a lot of people who are going to cheat.
It's okay.
And don't look like Barry Bonds. I'm not going to excuse him. I know he's a cheater, so F him at the end of the day. But growing up, I didn't know he was cheating, and it was mesmerizing.
It makes sense. Well, that's another topic for another day. We won't worry about that. We'll just, take it for face value. Yes, he was. I agree 100%. And I'm a Dodgers fan. He was mesmerizing. Absolutely.
Yeah, him versus Gagne. Him versus Eric Gagne. Yeah, that was mesmerizing.
Seriously. All right. Next one, hopping over. What's the favorite place you've been to, whether you've just been on vacation for a day, for a long time? What's your favorite place that you've been to?
I've actually been to Cuba, and I want to go back. I hit a few different cities. I think I'm going to forget one of the cities' names. I hit Havana for a couple days. I hit Santiago on the other side of the island, and I think I'm going to forget what the middle city was. It was actually my favorite, and I'm going to forget it. It's a smaller city.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, but I think I remember the baseball team that played there. They're called the Elefantes. Because I wanted to go to a baseball game.
Yeah, big baseball. Yeah, big baseball town down there. I mean, that's cool. Yeah, I've never been personally, so that's a unique experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those places you hear about, especially growing up here, right? You hear about it, it's just like a name on a website, on a Wikipedia page, on a history book. Yeah. It's like it's not a real place. They got right. You're just picturing so off. Yeah, you're picturing Yoenis Cespedes, swimming around. You're picturing Fidel Castro with these rockets aimed at you, and you're like, that's not a real place. Then you go there, and it's a real place with real people, and it's extremely interesting. So yeah, I just think I've never come close to. I guess I am kind of a weird hipster. I appreciate the uniqueness of Cuba. There's no place quite like it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very, very unique. Okay, so next, back into the sports realm. Favorite sports teams? So Giants in baseball. Oregon Ducks, college football. Yep. What else? What else we got going?
I unfortunately grew up a Raiders fan. So my father was born and raised in Northern California, I believe, mostly in Berkeley. Yep. So basically, I inherited the Raiders from him, and I inherited the Giants from him. But he did not watch, and so the Giants are obviously very catastrophic rooting for, right? Yeah, I don't want to get into the Raiders. And then, but I was left to my own devices to choose other teams. So I am in hockey, I inherited the LA Kings. I think I just bandwagoned because they were winning championships the same year, the same years pretty much. I think they won 2 when San Francisco was winning 3 in that 6-year stretch. And so I was like, they're like the same team as the Giants, right? Low scoring, and they're always.
You were in Santa Barbara. You were in Santa Barbara. So, or I think you were in Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
around that.
I remember watching one of the games at Fig Mountain. Actually, they're playing the New York Rangers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean we're close to LA, so we can count where we can like LA teams. Yes, I mean I'm in generally in LA sports teams. I like the Lakers, the Dodgers. I would associate with the Kings if I did have a hockey team and I don't watch as much. I've been watching it more though. I find it interesting now. And then the Jets, which is the oddball on mine, but yeah, it's tough.
Funny thing about the Jets and why going way back to the when I said I love about college football, you see the breakout players.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I have the player here correct. I'm pretty sure the first ever memory I have of Darrelle Revis.
Oh yeah.
New York Jets great. Revis.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I don't get this right. If I get it wrong, we're cutting this out.
Okay.
I think it was a punt return. Could be an interception return. Anyway, he's returning the ball. I think it's a punt return for when he played with Pitt. Pitt's getting 2 mentions here for some reason. They had him and LaShawn McCoy, some beautiful college highlights. He's returning a punt. And he's some no-name corner at this point, right? I'm sure he had a pedigree, but pretty much virtually a no-name. Who knows Darrelle Revis? And I'm just watching highlights, and he's just like, he's untackleable. He's amazing. He knows what's going to happen before the other teams happen. Going back to greatness, like I said, Barry Bonds, he knows where the pitch is going before you do, right? Before the umpire knows where it is, he already knows. I don't know how I started on that whole diatribe.
The Jets, Darrelle Revis. Yeah. So I'll we just watched that clip if I can find it. So that's interesting. I don't think I've even seen that one. So that'll be.
It's amazing. I don't think it's. Yeah, you'll probably watch it. It'll have like I don't know something like 20,000 views, and it's incredible. Like he hits one dude with a spin move at the end. The guy is just he has no idea what planet he's on. He's entering the transfer portal after that one. Yeah.
What about basketball? We get the NBA playoffs going now.
Another tragic story. Yeah, I'm a Clippers fan.
Yeah.
So tragic.
We're aware of this.
I grew up. I think I'm just a hipster is what it is. Because I grew up same as you, right? I could have chosen the Lakers, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why I chose them, and it's been a lot of years of pain ever since.
You liked selfies in the rafters instead of banners. That's okay though.
Way more cool. Yeah, everyone's got banners. Who needs banners?
We'd rather have big selfies. Yeah, the Clippers have had it rough, and they aren't necessarily gonna get across the threshold, at least as we can tell right now. So, but I mean, we have some great playoffs going on right now, so it's fun to watch. Luka and the Mavs, got the Warriors, got the Celtics, Heat, some great teams.
I've been more happy than anyone watching these playoffs because Luka Doncic, for the first 2 years of his playoff experience, everyone's saying, oh, the Clippers are about to choke. What is this terrible Mavs team doing? Bringing them to 7 games, back-to-back years.
I know.
And I'm like, I could be crazy because, of course, I'm biased. I'm like, I think this Luka Doncic guy might be the best basketball player I've ever seen in my entire life.
Pretty damn good.
Like, they beat him. What are you talking about? They beat him 2 straight years. Are you joking? And now the Suns are at home figuring out exactly how good he is. So a little too late. Should have figured it out before game 7.
He's legit. And I mean, albeit the Clippers had a lot of good, and he was putting up numbers on Clippers, and those 2 years they had one of the best, best on ball defenders, and he was still putting up numbers. And now that he has a little bit better team and more role players around him, they're putting it together and they're making a run. They're making their run this year. So, I mean, it's fun to watch. And, you kind of look like Luka a little bit, actually. You got the little Slovenian-like vibe. And I could see it.
Slightly overweight. I don't know if there's a picture going around Twitter. Actually, right before I got on, I was checking this where he's having a beer out in NorCal. I think the picture was from yesterday. Everyone was trying to say it was before the games night. But yeah, where he's having a little morning beer. With Boban.
The Boban is they're funny. They're funny guys.
Unfortunately, the similarities end there.
the similarities end at overweight. That's
yeah.
No, love Luka. All right, so we're almost there. Favorite TV show, or I know you read a lot, so maybe you don't watch a ton of them, or movies. What's your realm there?
I'm definitely a snob. Like I can probably count on one hand the amount of TV shows and movies I've watched with my wife over the last couple of years because I'm just a total snob. I am.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Okay.
think it's because I grew up right reading more than watching.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
Makes sense.
So I'm a snob. The best show going, and what is it? It's a Wednesday we're recording.
Yep. Wednesday.
So I'm behind on one episode. Came out this Monday. I try to catch them, but now there's all these digital subscriptions, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
the premium.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to keep track of. So I have an excuse for being behind.
It is.
Ever since Breaking Bad was going when we were in high school, I've been obsessed with it. And now Better Call Saul season 6, it's ending, right? I have to watch every single episode. I've never been that enraptured by a TV series, and I don't know what it is. Again, maybe it's because I got started early, like college football. Maybe if we never went to those Notre Dame USC games, maybe I never would be a big fan now. I got started on those youngish when I was in high school. Probably shouldn't have been watching some show about meth when I was that young, but I can't even describe it. It's just, I think that's what kind of makes like, I evaluate things. I don't know. For some reason, I'm forced to evaluate things like, what am I gaining from watching this TV series? And I don't even know if I can explain it watching that, but if you've seen them, you know. Are you obsessed with them like
no,
I am?
I am probably one of the more rare ones. I've never seen Breaking Bad.
Oh my
and
God.
I know, so I consistently hear it's the greatest show of all time. And so you saying that it makes sense. Now, I'm not a big into TV shows either. I like really good ones and ones that, like you're saying, there's either you either are up to that standard or it's not, and most things are not. So, I mean, I am a fan, and I probably will watch some of it at least eventually. So, and, you know, maybe we can throw some clips in here of, you know, some favorite moments. But, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, clearly you've liked that enough to keep you hooked. So, I mean, that's cool.
It's just weird. I was sitting there watching season 6 because I started watching it. I had the flu the other week, and I was watching on my phone because these stupid premium subscriptions. I don't have AMC Plus, and I couldn't figure out how to watch it.
AMC Plus.
So I was sitting there watching it.
What?
Yeah, I'm like,
I've never heard of that. What are we just getting everything plus over here?
Never heard about it until it's right. It's exclusive. You can't watch it anywhere else. All the other seasons are on Netflix. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm sitting there watching with the flu, or I got the temperature, feeling like crap, watching on my phone with this like crappy sound quality, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't even an app. This is how I'm consuming my favorite TV show ever, right? I'm like, what is going on here? And then it just makes me flash back, and I'm thinking, right, I remember watching season whatever it was, 1 or 2 in college. I would, right? I was not partying if Better Call Saul's on and I haven't watched it. I gotta go watch it. I'm thinking of high school, and I'm like, oh my God, I was really watching high school. I'm thinking of how I was trying to like think back and remember how I was watching all the points. And then I'm like, I feel like I've downgraded. Now I'm sitting here watching on my phone because I don't have a damn premium subscription.
So technology is supposed to be going forward, but apparently we're going backwards in some ways. So last question. What's next for JD? So you've been getting more and more into sports journalism, college football writing, talking on YouTube, different things like that. I know you're moving more towards that. So you're gonna just keep pushing full steam on that. What do you have in the plans?
Yeah, I'm pushing pretty full steam on that. The season's coming up, so obviously we're gonna see how it's going. I'm stretching myself pretty thin. I'm taking on every opportunity I can because it's if you get an opportunity to do what you love, and in almost all instances, I would tell somebody to go for it, right? Like if a student asked me that, that's the advice I would give them. So yes. you would think I would follow my own advice, right? So we're seeing how it's going. It's like the weirdest timing in the world because a new homeowner got the kid, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, dang, this is a pretty unique opportunity you got going on there. Maybe you should chase it. So things are lining up. I'm not 100% positive, but I'm building that up as much as I can. Going to be on a couple different platforms, talking college football this fall. In the off season, I'm trying to build up more off season content, keep the YouTube content coming, getting some advice from my friend Nick over here on what to do. Yeah. So we'll see, but everything's coming. It's all it's all me. It's all college football. I'm going to see wherever I can take it.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm in this realm, so, I love talking about it. So, we've chopped it up. And so let's throw the plugs in there. So your YouTube, what's your channel? I'll put it in the description of wherever you're watching.
Yeah, it's YonkersCFB, Yonkers, and then CFB college football. That's the YouTube. Go ahead and give a follow. We'll have some content out here. I'm trying to go weekly. I'm trying to make it keep myself to a schedule. We're going to go weekly because usually in the off season I'm slow. So keep an eye out, talking absolutely everything that there's talk about. Like I said, it's the craziest off season we've ever seen. There's NIL, there's transfer portal, there's everything you can name. So I'm keeping up to date on it.
Everything. All right. So any other plugs? That I know that's kind of your main deal.
That's the main one. Same thing on Twitter. Pretty much everything I do. Like I said, I'm down all over the place, but pretty much I try to consolidate it. It'll be on YouTube or Twitter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll put those links down there. I know he is an awesome sports writer. So if you guys want to check that out about college football, a lot of different things. He puts out some great stuff, and he's very knowledgeable at this point. He has been to a lot of tailgates, and I'm kidding. So
first-hand experience, baby. You got to learn on the job. If I can't be playing, I'm gonna be there drinking, trying to learn, talking to the locals.
Exactly. Well, this has been awesome. If you're still listening, thank you for listening. I know it's a little bit longer of an episode, but we had a lot to talk about, and we covered a lot of good topics. And so, JD, thank you for coming on and sharing with us today. I'm sure we all took something from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This was a good fun time. I get to mostly when I'm talking about myself, or not talking about myself, talking about college football, and it was a fun opportunity. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we'll definitely collab in the future. And Nolan, who was on episode 1, we all went to high school together, so we'll do some collabs on things in the future. We all love sports in the realm, so we'll figure that out. But so yeah. If you're still listening and watching, again, thank you so much. Please let us know your thoughts on the episodes so far. Every 2 weeks on Monday is when we release. So this will come out close to the end of the month. And then the episode 5 guest will be announced on our Instagram @Teammates Podcast. So again, thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the episode. JD is an awesome guy, and that was a great conversation that we had. We touched on many different topics, and it was great to hear his perspectives on a lot of them, including perseverance, how his sports journey shaped the rest of his life so far, and the wonderful world of college football. So many great perspectives there, and it is an awesome thing. College football is so unique, and it's tough to replicate. I will at some point touch on the civil conflict more. I know we kind of got away from that, but the civil conflict was a rivalry game between us at UConn football and UCF, and some of you may have heard of it, some may not, but it's a fun rivalry to talk about, I think, at least. So again, thank you everyone for listening and watching wherever you're watching at. Really appreciate you. Our next guest announcement will be on our Instagram. So as before, if you haven't followed our Instagram yet, it's @Teammates Podcast. It'll be in the description of wherever you're listening or watching. So go follow us there. Really appreciate your support and for listening to the entire thing. Thank you guys. Hope you all had an amazing Memorial Day weekend. Talk soon. YouTube, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The episodes will be coming out every 2 weeks. Hit that thumbs up button, and it really helps us grow the podcast. Thank you.